Let's read the text titled Kevin, written by Catherine Lim. Kevin grew tired of his books as he began to draw idly on a blank sheet of his exercise book. He first drew a circle and then put in smaller circles for eyes, nose, and mouth. The face looked pitiably meagre, so he drew in 2 loops for ears and spikes for hair. The face cried out for yet more embellishments: a mustache, a formidable array of teeth, a pair of black-rimmed spectacles, and a mole on the chin from which drooped 2 long hairs completed the effect. Kevin smiled, but said, "Ouch!" the next moment, for his mother's knuckles had descended upon his head with a resounding crack. "Stop playing the fool and get on with your revision for your science test tomorrow," she said severely, as Kevin rubbed his head and smiled foolishly. "You're still at chapter 4, aren't you? And the test is up to chapter 8. There's no time for playing the fool, boy." She snatched the offensive picture, crumbled it into a ball, and flung it into the wastepaper basket. "And don't waste time dreaming and drawing nonsense or teasing Chantic," as their fat, placid-looking cat sidled up to Kevin and he stroked her ears. Kevin went back to his books conscientiously. He could see from the corner of his eye that his mother hadn't gone off. She was standing near the table, looking at him, and he knew what she was going to say next, because she had told him the same thing every day as far back as he could remember. "Remember, Kevin, if you didn't get 95% or more." The warning was all the more fearful for its unfinished utterance. It encompassed the whole parental armory of knocks on the head with the knuckles, knocks on the knuckles with a ruler, twisting of the ears, one after the other, which left a hot tingling sensation that lasted for at least half an hour, a caning on the legs and buttocks, a withdrawal of permission to watch TV or go to the cinema for a month. Kevin hadn't deserved any of these, because for every test he had set for, he had obtained 95% or more. His mother rewarded him with chocolates, a mouth organ, storybooks. Kevin had asked for Beano and Dandy and Mad, but his mother had expressed disgust at their stupidity and poor language. A new watch and a pair of sneakers. Kevin had asked for a pair of football boots to go and play football with Boone Key, but his mother had refused. Firstly, because football is too rough, and secondly, because Boone Key is too untidy and playful, and therefore a bad influence. Kevin's mother kept a neat file of his marked exercises and tests, each of which she had examined carefully to detect the mistakes which had caused loss of marks. Mistakes of carelessness in copying, spelling, punctuation, addition, and so on, which meant the loss of at least 2 marks. She sighed and shook her head over. "Why were you so careless, son?" she would ask in a weary voice. "If you hadn't made that silly careless mistake, you would have gotten 98% instead of only 96%. Mistakes resulting from deficient understanding rather than carelessness, she was not so tolerant of in determined efforts to correct the deficiency. She would get the boy to sit down at the table with her, and she would go through the lessons slowly and painstakingly, making sure Kevin understood everything perfectly. In the case of the subject, Chinese language, she was helpless, but she rang up Kevin's Chinese language tutor and requested him to go through the boy's marked script when he came for the next lesson, and to give the boy plenty of homework so that the same mistakes would not be made in future exercises and tests. Each time Kevin had come home with the high marks and the comments "very good" written in red by the teacher next to the marks, she had smiled, but the anxieties would not cease till she had ascertained that the marks were the highest in the class. The invariable questions as she took the test sheet from the boy and looked at the top right-hand corner for the confirmation of his claim was, "Did you get the highest marks? What did Tan Mong Chow get? Ravindran Pillai?" These 2 boys have been Kevin's closest rivals in class. When Tan Mong Chow obtained 100% for math and Kevin 95%, she was deeply displeased, especially when she discovered that the loss of the 5% was due to the careless omission of a whole question. "I didn't see it. Honestly, I didn't," said Kevin tearfully. "Next time, make sure you do every question. Did you hear me?" cried the disappointed parent. 5 marks gone for nothing. And this term, Mang Chao got higher marks than you for dictation, and Ravindran Pillai beat you in composition. This term you won't be first in class, boy. You'll be second or third or even fourth. Her face twisted in a sudden spasm of pain. She had ulcers, and agitation always brought on attacks. But Kevin came out first in his class, and his mother was very pleased and took him to watch Star Wars. Kevin begged to be allowed that evening to watch a football match telecast live on TV. Boon Kee had talked so much about it that morning in school that he, too, had worked himself into a state of excitement over it. But his mother said, "No, you've had enough play today. You need to go to bed early because of your swimming lesson tomorrow. Mr. D'Souza told me that you're doing very well and he may consider you for the competition in Kuala Lumpur in September. He said you're more promising than the other boys in the group." She smiled proudly upon him, but his little heart sank. He really wanted to watch the football match. And now all the excitement he could look forward to was in listening to Boon Kee's account in school on Monday morning. And Boon Kee never knew how to describe things clearly whenever he got excited. Kevin's eyes grew heavy. His head dropped over his science textbook, and he jerked it up quickly, smiling foolishly when he saw his mother sitting opposite and looking at him. "You'd better go to sleep," she sighed. "It's no use studying when you're so sleepy. But you'd better get up a little earlier tomorrow and have a quick revision of U Science. Don't forget the various types of aquatic plants, and remember to spell ammonia with double M. The last time you got it wrong, remember, and teacher took off a mark." Kevin said, "Good night, Mum," sleepily. She kissed him and then went to remind the servant, who was getting old and forgetful, to give him a cup of Bovril and 2 soft boiled eggs for his breakfast the next morning. It was the first time that Kevin had experienced real fear. Before Miss Lamb read out the marks, she had looked at Kevin, shaken her head, and smiled a little ruefully. "Kevin Lee Kang Seng," she addressed him with undue drama. "Mang Chiao and Ravindran Pillai beat you this time." But his hopes held. Surely he had that 95%. Miss Lamb read the names of the first 5 boys in order of merit. Kevin's name was 6th on the list. He had obtained 82%. Kevin went pale. His jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. The sense of impending danger rushed upon him. It drained his mouth dry, but the tears were held back. It was only after the school bell had rung for dismissal and he was on his way home, dragging his feet along the hot tarred road, his heavy satchel of books strapped on his back, that he began to cry. He sniffled noisily, forgetting to use the handkerchief that his mother put every morning in his trouser pocket and wiping his nose on his sleeve. "Don't cry, Kevin." It was the playful, untidy Boon Kee, but now looking very serious as he tried to comfort his best friend. "My mother, she's sure to wallop me," sniffed Kevin. "She'll be so angry. I've never got less than 95% before." And Kevin stopped under a tree by the roadside and refused to go on, dreading the anger and punishment that awaiting him at home. "You bluff her. Say you got 100%. Advised the unrealistic Boon Kee. Kevin looked at him scornfully and said, "You think you're so clever. My mother looks at all the test sheets. I can't bluff her." Boon Kee dredged his mind for more ideas and came up with another suggestion. I know. When Miss Lamb returns the test sheet, you change the 82% to 100%. I can do it for you. I got a red ball pen like hers." Kevin looked at him with yet more scorn. "Why are you so stupid?" he sighed. She can see the mistakes on the test sheet. You cannot bluff this away, I tell you." The two boys lapsed into gloomy silence. Kevin leaned against a tree and began throwing pebbles desultorily into a drain. He discovered a packet of chewing gum in his shirt pocket, which he gave to Boone Key, remembering that his mother doesn't like him to chew gum, and then continued throwing pebbles into the drain. "I gotta go now," said Boone Key, his mouth full of gum. "Boy, I hope your mum doesn't wallop you. Bye." "Bye," said Kevin, and picked up his satchel to continue the fearful way home. He pushed open the garden gate with as little noise as he could. He walked into the house with slow, soft steps, putting off the dreaded moment of parental vengeance as long as he could. His mother wasn't at home. That brought immediate relief. The old servant was in the kitchen when she heard him. She came running, crying out in a distressed voice, "Kevin, your poor mother. She's in a hospital. It's her ulcers. She had to be rushed there this morning." The boy managed to curb a powerful upsurge of feelings. The servant's face, now streaked with tears, searched Kevin's signs of filial concern. "Your mother's in hospital," she repeated, frowning at him in severe disapproval. "How long will she be there?" asked Kevin in a trembling voice, for the effort of holding back the surge of feelings was beginning to prove too great for him. "I don't know. Perhaps a week. She was very ill," said the servant, and again her eyes fastened on the boy's face, and her expression showed she was both perturbed and displeased. In the privacy of his room, Kevin threw himself upon his bed, pummeled his pillows, did a somersault, and landed on the floor with a bump, before grabbing hold of some books and flinging them into the air with wild abandon. His eyes sparkled, his cheeks glowed. "Boy, oh boy, 1 week," he repeated to himself. He saw Chantet on the windowsill and began to hiss at her with exuberant ferocity, unable to contain the sheer joy of a prospect of a whole week of fun and play, and Boone Key and television. The reckoning would come later. Even in the delirium of his joy, Kevin realized that the marks would still have to be told, the punishment would still have to be borne, but right now was pure bliss, as might never come into his way again. So, with a menacing whoop, Kevin performed another somersault again on his bed and laughed ferociously to see Chantet leap out into the garden at an unaccustomed sight.